Samia Akbar is part of the New Balance global marketing team and is also head of the Stolen Starts, a female running collective that seeks to empower all women through community. Now, beyond her amazing role with the New Balance family, Samia is also a very accomplished runner, both back in college and professionally. But what I really love about Samia is that she truly is an amazing soul. So my first question is always, how did you, or when did you fall in love with running?
I fell in love with running in grade school, actually, because I would be the only kid out of a family of, 5 other siblings that enjoyed joining my dad at the track when he would go on occasion. So he's from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He grew up in a city and was exposed to a lot of different types of sports, swimming, boxing, and boxing. That's where, he got introduced to distance running for endurance and cardio pieces. And that was one of the things that he carried throughout his life as an ongoing, fitness program. And so he would go to the track throughout the week, on the weekends, and I would just go with him. And because I loved being outside, and I still do. And I would just challenge myself to see how long I could run while my dad was there. I wasn't fast enough to run with him, but just to tag along and see how many laps I could get every time gave me like a really big sense of accomplishment. And that ended up being kind of like an ongoing theme. And also, Santi, the beginning of just unlocking all the self-confidence that you gain from running. I became, from there, one of the fastest little girls in my elementary school at Camelot Elementary in Northern Virginia. I was always making the fastest boy in my grade sweat when we had our mile competition. And so I really enjoyed that part. So that I think that's kind of the beginning of when I fell in love with running. But as a child, I was never in any sort of formal track programs, running programs. That didn't start until much later.
Now, I'm going to assume here that you did really well because then you went on to run in college and be an All-American.
This is true. So I stuck with it. And, my parents, they always encouraged all of their kids to go after any goals they had, lean further into any passions that were there. And running was one of those things. So while it wasn't formal, I continued in high school. I ran mile, 2 mile, and sometimes I would help out on 4x8 team. I ran cross country my last 2 years of high school, and then I went on to run on full scholarship at American University. So yeah, and I was eventually inducted to the Hall of Fame there. My coach was, my coach at the time was Matt Centrowitz. He's an Olympian himself. And so I had a really, really amazing experience there. And at each level, I, learned more and more about getting into running as a career choice. And, it hadn't occurred to me when I started that I never made the connection as a child to someone running as their full-time job. But that's what I eventually went on to do with the guidance of several coaches and being really inspired. And as I mentioned, getting all the love and encouragement from parents, friends, and family to continue to do something that was really fun.
So running professionally, obviously, we all strive. When I was young, I wanted to play baseball my whole life. Things didn't work out. But thinking in retrospect, if I could have lived that dream, that would have been amazing. I'm sure running as a professional, although it is a job, you're still living this passion that you've loved since you were young.
Exactly. So, where I sit at this very moment, running has given me literally everything, Santi. You know, as I talked about, you know, from the inside out, this sense of self-confidence. I'm a huge, huge advocate for girls in sports. I think that it teaches you so much when you're a female athlete about how to take good care of yourself, how to see value in yourself outside of what anyone else is thinking or feeling about you, to trust yourself. So many good lessons there. I could go off, as you can see, on a tangent. But running as a career was awesome. You know, it's something that you get into, it's an individual sport. So you have to prove yourself, you know, every season, every race. You essentially earn a contract with a shoe company, and those range from the kind of support you get. This isn't the, you know, NBA draft, right? Like, there's not that kind of excitement or system around professional distance running, and I specialize in distance events. So I think that just kind of making sure that I got in, I got set up with a coach, and I had teammates that specialize in different events, and I had an agent. And based on my own performances, I was able to mix it up on this, you know, national level and eventual world-class level in everything from cross-country races all the way up to the marathon. Those were my specialties. And so I, you know, lived for about 7 years training and racing on that circuit. And, you know, I felt so lucky to be able to get paid to do that, and to live a life where I could focus just on that. It's hard to get into this sport. So I was able to just do that and not have to work a ton of other jobs, and just kind of see how far it would take me. And it took me all over the world. I met interesting people like you. And, you know, it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And it taught me a lot about life. And I've taken a lot of what I've learned in my professional running career onto this sort of like next stage of working and running in a different capacity.
You know, I have daughters, and we use sports as a way to teach them about life. And that reminded me of a story you told in Falmouth one time. And I think it was specifically about the Falmouth race, where I think leading up to it, or the preparation that day didn't go as planned, maybe something to do with the people you were staying with. Something happened logistically that maybe altered the race day and the race itself. But I'm sure from that one moment you learned a lot, and a lot about yourself, and also a lot on like how to bounce back.
That was a perfect example of running teaching me about life, in that you can prepare as much as possible, and you can have the best laid plans for things. You can have the best intentions, right? And sometimes, Santi, life is not fair and things just don't work out. And so what do? You know, so it teaches you to be resilient. What you do is think about what's next, you know, try to be nimble and switch your focus as quickly as possible so you're not wasting time. And just, you know, give yourself the grace to always continue to grow and to look at things as part of a journey, right? Was Falmouth Road Race, when I was training for it and it didn't go great, the Olympics or my goal race for the year? No, it wasn't. It was, you know, one thing that, you know, made up an overall plan for my success and to get me towards, you know, some of my larger goals of PRing in different events. And so I'm really glad that you get a chance to, you know, communicate with your own girls in that way, because I think it's really, really important. The earlier you start to like have those conversations with people who care about you and with yourself, really, I think the better off you'll be.
Well, talking about retirement, and I use that in the air quotes because, you know, you're 37, you're 38.
I'm 39.
You're 39. So, and I'm 41. It's hard to think about like retirement at this age. But I guess professionally, it's your retirement. But what role does running play in your life now?
So running has a huge uh, part in my overall well-being and especially my mental wellness. Um, I don't feel like myself when I don't run consistently. And so as a result, I run almost every day and have for many years. And my sweet spot for a run is about an hour, give or take. And I always love to go outside. I'll run on the treadmill if I have to, but I like to be outside. I love a green space. I like running by myself. I like running with music. All of those things help me feel mentally clearer and sharper. I'm able to just step back from things that are really bothering me and worrying me. I always physically feel so much better when I return. And it just gives me a chance to just hit a reset button. And it definitely, if I run at the end of a workday, it feels like a tonic or a medicine for whatever was going on, just a couple hours before. And so I just feel like I'm not myself. So for me, it's become very clear that I I never took running for granted. If you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. And that was like a part of it early on. But like I think that for me, it's become very clear the older I get and the more removed I am from my professional career that it just helps me feel good regularly.
It's funny you talk about that because I tell this on the radio like all the time. I see a therapist and I love her. She's amazing. But some of the best therapy I do is out on my runs when I'm by myself. The clarity that I have in my mind, my mental health is always so amazing when I come back from that run. And especially after the past 2 years with the craziness of the election, with the pandemic, like running literally bridged the gap between these 2 points now just because of just where we were at, and like the clarity that I got on those runs was absolutely just amazing.
They really were. And sometimes when I've been out for a run the last few years, Santi, like that's when I realized too how much we're all dealing with. We're all sort of like trudging through, and it's a lot. Personally, I've had some folks pass away in my family on both sides. So and not because of COVID or anything, but then there was COVID, then there was this other thing going on, other things going on within my family. And like you said, like, the election and the news cycle that was on that felt very disturbed, like particularly disturbing. I think it's been really hard. And then also being flexible, like at work, all the changes that have happened with like the different types of settings and stuff that we're working in, having some work-life balance working from home, which at first I did not master that very well at all. I felt way off, days were just kind of like blending into one another. And so it is running where I started to kind of, think through like, okay, you're going to have to cut yourself off. Feels so good to be out here. And now you need to take it a step further. Like there has to be an end time to your workday, Samia. You can't just work until you go to sleep and then wake up and start writing emails. You know what I mean? Like on runs is when I kind of figured that stuff out.
Well, since we're talking about work, let's talk about life at New Balance. By the way, I truly love the company that you work for. I love the people there. And I work in media, and sometimes bigger companies aren't so nice, aren't so down to earth. But the people that you work with and yourself as well have been so down to earth. And like even taking the time to do this was an easy ask, and you guys were so accommodating. What is life at New Balance like from the inside? Because from the outside looking in, you guys are all amazing.
I mean, I'm just going to echo what you're saying, first of all, that I feel very grateful to work at a place that has a corporate culture of, kindness and respect for the employees. And I feel that on a regular basis. And it's great to be working and running. I love the projects that I'm working on. I work in global marketing, in running specifically, and then a dial down from that is that I'm able to lead the Stolen Starts program and also work specifically in energy and performance collaborations, which is kind of a new area, but it's my favorite because we're able to fuse sport and culture. And that's what I, work in every day as a marketer. So feel really, really lucky. And in leading the Stolen Starts program, which is a global female running collective. I mean, just that idea alone that I was able to kick an initiative like that off at New Balance just kind of makes my heart soar. And it ties back to some of the things I was telling you earlier about, women in sport and some of the things we haven't touched on yet, which is having a place and a space to think about expanding diversity, equity, and inclusion in distance running specifically. As a Black woman in running at a professional level, and also, in a corporate setting, these things and all the issues that sort of, tie into this collective are near and dear to my heart. So it's been really awesome.
Where can people find more information about what you're working on, these amazing platforms?
So we have a lot of information on, at New Balance Running, at New Balance Women. We're starting to do some features on some of our awesome Stolen Starts members. The name of the program is called the Stolen Starts. It was inspired by the idea, Santi, that, in 1928, that was the first time women's running events were invited to the Olympic Games. And it caused such an uproar that they were promptly snatched away, and they didn't return. Women weren't allowed to participate in track events in the Olympic Games until 1960. And so the idea is that for, years and years, these start lines were taken from a viable, vibrant, whole sector of our human population, which is women on the planet. And the idea is that these 11 women who are part of this global running collective, they are active members in their running community, but they also champion things like, mental wellness, body positivity, sustainability, and protecting our planet. And they're fearless. They go along with our fearlessly independent, overarching theme for our entire company and brand in showing up as their authentic selves. And so we're able to elevate their voices and support the causes that they're doing by, working with them to see what it is that they're working on in their community and finding out ways that we can support them. And also to further all kinds of causes. We are, actively beginning to set up time with all of our product teams and really delve into, how a woman's perspective and get feedback and actual, input, right, from the women in this program to inform all of the things we do from a product standpoint, innovation standpoint, to, working with them on, some of New Balance's already core values and all of the other initiatives that we would want to further along. And so, New Balance has a history steeped in women's running. Our first professional Team NB athletes were a group of women, and we watch everyone, from folks like Jenny Simpson and Emma Coburn and Emily Sisson, in the Olympic trials and Olympic Games recently, all the way up to, our Sydney McLaughlins, our Kendall Ellis's, our Gabby Thomas's. And so it's really nice to see this continuity in which we're able to start a program with people who are not like I was. They're not elite athletes. These are women who are working hard every day in their respective fields and have a career that's different from just being a professional athlete, but we're elevating their voices and showing that there's so many things to contribute, and that they are beacons of being the change, right, that you want to see in the world. And so I think, one of the best things for New Balance to, kick off this program and to show that we care is by doing, and so that's what I love about these Stolen Starts members, is that they're active, vibrant, coveted members of their community, not just as runners, but also just as people and women.
New Balance has a very long history of championing women. That's a direct quote from Samia herself, by the way. And the Stolen Starts is just another example of that. Now, to stay up to date on all things the Stolen Starts, visit newbalance.com/running and follow New Balance Women on Instagram.